Chris Philp with us, Minister of State for Crime, Policing and Fires. Good to see you, as always. Thanks for taking the time. When was the last time you spoke to the Prime Minister?
The last time I spoke to the Prime Minister, probably when Parliament was still sitting. We had a text message exchange a few days ago, but I haven't spoken to him since Parliament broke up.
How bruised is he after his misstep in Normandy?
Well, look, I think he's acknowledged he made a mistake. He should have gone to that event hosted by President Macron, but he recognised that really quickly. The next morning, he apologised pretty fulsomely. Now, it's fairly rare, I think you'll agree as a journalist, to see a senior politician apologise so quickly. So I think it was really sort of sincerely felt, because he is someone who has really backed veterans. You know, he was meeting veterans not just on the Wednesday and Thursday of last week, but he's been, as Chancellor and as Prime Minister, has done all kinds of things to support veterans, strengthening the Armed Forces Covenant, putting Johnny Mercer as Veterans Minister in the Cabinet, increasing defence expenditure for our armed forces. We're going to get to 2.5% of GDP by 2030. That's a pledge Labour hasn't matched. So he is really, really committed to our armed services, and that's why, when he recognised he had made a mistake, he apologised straight away.
I wonder how bruised he is, though, as I said, by this misstep, because we haven't really seen him talking to journalists or wanting to chat in any way to anybody other than the people that he's doing his photo opportunities with. He cancelled a media huddler, as we call it, on Saturday, and we haven't seen him really since.
Well, I think he's out, as I understand it, I think he's out on the campaign trail today, meeting people, no doubt, including journalists as well. And I don't think there's any... I'm sure he regrets deeply not having attended that event, which is why, obviously, he rightly apologised, because it was a mistake. But he's recognised that, he's apologised, and I think we'll see him bouncing around the campaign trail this week, and I'm sure he'll be talking to journalists whenever they want to ask him some questions.
Yeah, I did tweet, actually, last week saying that Cameron was a seasoned politician and he should have known. He should have guided him and said, mate, this is not a clever thing to do. The Sunday Times reporting yesterday that David Cameron, the Foreign Secretary, told the Prime Minister to stay at D-Day, and he personally decided not to.
Well, I don't know about the sort of inner workings of who recommended what and you know, what advisor said what. And
the Foreign Secretary talking to the Prime Minister.
Yeah, well, I don't know what conversation took place there, but obviously the Prime Minister has apologised. But he is rightly apologised. But he is a Prime Minister, as I said, who's really backed veterans and backed the armed services, and that funding pledge, 2.5% of GDP being spent on defence in excess of our NATO target, is a really important commitment to back our armed forces, a commitment that Labour has not matched.
What's your plan to boost local policing?
Well, we're going to be recruiting another 8,000 police officers over the next 3 or 4 years. That's on top of the record numbers of police officers we've already got. So last year we hit 149,566. That is, I'm counting every single one. That is over 3,000 more than we've ever had before. The previous peak was in about 2010. So on top of that record ever number of police, as I say, 8,000 more officers specifically dedicated to neighbourhoods. That means patrolling the area where you live, the area where I live, and the area where your viewers live, to make sure they're on hand to deal with any incidents, to investigate crime, to provide patrols, to reassure the public, to prevent crime as well. A really important commitment to help protect the public. Crime, by the way, according to the Crime Survey, is down by 50%, over 50%, on a like-for-like basis since 2010.
Cybercrime, of
course. So fraud and computer misuse came into the figures in 2016. In the last year, including cybercrime and fraud, overall crime went down by 6%. Homicides, the most obviously serious form of crime, they're down. There were 577 last year, 620 in the last year of the last Labour government. So crime is coming down on any measure, any crime survey measure. That's the ONS's sort of authorised, preferred method of measuring long-term crime trends. But we'd like to go further, and these 8,000 extra police officers, on top of the record numbers we've got, will do that.
Officers will be given new powers and tools to catch criminals. What will that look like?
Well, for example, when the police know where someone's mobile phone or iPad is, based on the kind of Find My iPhone app, other mobile phones are available, no doubt, then the public expect the police to immediately rightly expect the police to immediately go to the place where that stolen iPhone or iPad or other mobile phone is located and retrieve it. Now, at the moment, to enter private premises, like a house or a flat, to retrieve stolen property, you need a magistrate's warrant first. Now, that can take a bit of time to obtain. It could take a few days to obtain. So where the police know that there are stolen goods in in a property, based on the sort of Find My iPhone app, without needing a warrant, they can go in and retrieve those stolen goods immediately. That's one example. Another example is we're going to ban the signal jamming technology used to steal cars, often high-end cars. We're going to ban the possession of that technology unless, obviously, you're a legitimate garage or something. We're going to increase the penalties for selling knives to under 18s. A whole range of measures to combat knife crime as well. And we're going to be investing heavily in facial recognition technology. So we've been trialling this in Croydon, the borough that I represent in Parliament, and this technology can now identify wanted criminals who haven't previously been caught. It can identify them walking down the street, and police can then arrest them. In Croydon, in the last 3 or 4 months, 135 criminals have been caught using this technology in the last few months, including a man wanted for 2 rapes, one dating back to 2017. So investing in this facial recognition technology will also catch a lot more criminals.
Been in power for 14 years. These last 4 comments that you've made, why have you not done that already?
Well, the facial recognition technology and the signal jamming, and the signal jamming technology and the Find My iPhone sort of technology, those are all quite recent technical innovations. So we're responding.
It's been around for years.
We're responding to those.
I've found a lost iPhones many occasions using that. Yeah.
Well, so certainly the signal jamming technology and the facial recognition is fairly new.
I can also check where my son is.
Ah, OK. Does he appreciate that?
No,
probably not.
He doesn't let me.
So, but we're constantly looking for new ideas. And as I say, overall crime, according to the crime survey, down 55%, but we'd like to go further.
How are you going to pay for it?
So the cost of the 8,000 extra police officers is £818 million. The majority of that, about 600 million, will come from removing the student discount to the immigration health surcharge and also increasing visa fees by 25%. The remaining 200 or so million will come from the 6 billion we're raising by clamping down on tax evasion. We've so far only spent 5.3 billion of that.
That's a lot of numbers this morning, Minister.
Well, you asked me a question about spending, so I'm giving you numbers.
I did.
So that's how it's being funded, anyway.
A small written test later on, I'm sure. The director of Institute for Fiscal Studies says politicians are tying themselves in knots, promising not to raise taxes, and neither of the main parties want to talk about the scale of the financial challenge ahead of the next government. Is that true?
I don't think it is true. I mean, we're very clear that we're being careful, the Conservatives are being careful about spending pledges. You asked me quite reasonably just then how we're funding the 8,000 police officers, and I gave you a very detailed answer. We produced a dossier a couple of weeks ago that was obviously a big feature of the debate between Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak, showing that Labour have made a total of 27 policy announcements, some costing money, some raising tax. And when you net all of that off and you cost them all individually, those 27 measures, you find it's going to cost £38 billion over the next Parliament, which is £2,000 of extra tax for each working household. So Labour will saddle the public with extra taxes because of all of those 27 pledges that I just mentioned.
Given that you're so far behind in the polls and given that the Prime Minister just doesn't seem to be able to catch a break at the moment, what's your motivation?
As a party or personally?
For you?
Well, look, I mean, I love representing my constituents in the constituency I've had the honour to represent for the last 9 years. I'd like to keep doing that, working hard to deliver things. I won't list all the things I've done locally, but personally, I find continuing to do that work locally extremely motivating. And on a national level, you know, we live in a very dangerous and uncertain world. We have huge challenges. You know, we've seen the challenges of COVID, global high inflation, the rise of China, Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I think it's just really important to, as a matter of public service, just try and do everything like I can as an individual, but the party more widely, to try and help our country navigate through these really difficult waters. And I think it's important to step up and to do that. It's very easy just to, look, some of my colleagues have gone back into private life and gone back to business or whatever. But I think particularly at times like these, it's important to be willing to serve.
When you saw what the Prime Minister did last week, leaving D-Day veterans literally on the beaches so he could come back and record a TV interview, did you have your head in your hands? I couldn't believe it. When I heard, I literally couldn't believe that that's what he'd done. I couldn't get it. Why?
Well, I mean, obviously it was a mistake. I mean, to be fair...
What was your reaction?
Well, to be fair to the Prime Minister, he did obviously attend all the events in the UK and met veterans, and he attended the British-hosted events in Normandy and met British veterans there.
President Biden, President Macron,
yeah, but he should have gone to the final one. That's right, and he's apologised.
Yeah, but I'm asking you how you felt, or what was your reaction when you heard the news?
Well, I was surprised and disappointed, but he apologised, and I think if you look at his track record looking after veterans and funding the armed services, he's got a good track record that he can be proud of, a track record the party can be proud of, and a track record the country can be proud of.
OK. It's good to see you, as always. Thank you very much indeed, Minister. Thank you.